Thursday, 9 in the morning, and everything you need to know as of this hour right now. And so you don't miss anything important, subscribe to the TSN channel, hit the like button and the notification bell. Well, let's get started. A nighttime attack on Kyiv. At least 7 people were injured. Debris from downed drones fell on residential neighborhoods. Apartment buildings in several districts were damaged. Cars parked in courtyards burned down. In the Podil district, people had to be evacuated from a residential building where a fire broke out. The Russians also hit a kindergarten, a synagogue, and a business center were damaged. Nearby houses and a school were left without windows. In one of the apartment buildings, the roof and 2 apartments were destroyed. The Russians have been striking Kyiv for the 2nd night in a row. After the previous attack, there were 2 dead and about 30 wounded in the capital. Fires and destruction in 4 districts of the capital. The left bank suffered the most. In the Darnitsky district, 2 apartment buildings were on fire. In the Dnipro district, a missile hit an apartment building. There, 2 people were killed. A medical facility was also damaged. Damage to facades and fires were recorded in the Desnyansky district and in Pechersk. 3 districts of Dnipropetrovsk region will be under enemy shelling. The day before, in Nikopol district, a 52-year-old man was injured. He was hospitalized in moderate condition. A hospital, infrastructure, and a garage were damaged. The Sinelnikov district was hit by drones and guided aerial bombs. A private house and a bus were damaged. In Pavlovrad, a drone attack damaged an infrastructure facility. In the Kherson region, a man and a woman were injured while driving their cars. The Russians dropped explosives on them from drones. Another passerby was injured in the regional center as a result of an enemy drone attack. War criminals relentlessly shell residential neighborhoods in Kherson with artillery. 8 city residents have been injured. The time has come. This is how Donald Trump commented on the new sanctions against Russia. The day before, the U.S. Treasury Department imposed restrictions on Rosneft and Lukoil. These are the 2 largest Russian oil companies. Another 34 of their subsidiaries were also added to the sanctions list. The reason was Russia's de facto refusal to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. The statement from the U.S. Treasury notes that the sanctions are being imposed due to Russia's lack of serious commitment to the peace process, and that their goal is to deprive the Kremlin of revenue to finance the war. Donald Trump explained to journalists that the United States had postponed this decision for a long time, but now he felt that the time had come. Trump canceled his meeting with Putin, which was planned to be held in Budapest. Emergency power outages affected most regions of Ukraine. These are the consequences of a massive Russian attack that took place on Sunday night, as the energy sector came under enemy fire. Emergency repair work began in those areas where the security situation allowed it. The day before, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhzhia, Poltava, Odessa, Kirovohrad, Chernihiv, Cherkasy, Sumy regions, and Kyiv came under missile and Shahed drone attacks. The enemy targeted the capital alone with about a dozen ballistic missiles and a large number of Shaheds. 5 children were injured during the combined attack on the capital. 4 of them were hospitalized. The children are between 2 and 17 years old. They suffered shrapnel wounds to the head and face from glass. Doctors remind parents about the 2-wall rule if it is not possible to get to a shelter. 1 girl was admitted to the hospital unconscious due to severe stress. She is receiving help from psychologists. The rest of the children underwent surgery to remove glass fragments. The children are in satisfactory condition, a neurosurgeon from the Kyiv Children's Clinical Hospital told TSN.
We conducted an examination. The CT scan showed there were no glass fragments under the skin. They were superficial. They just touched the skin and flew off, so the children only had minor cuts. The children were examined by our specialists, neurosurgeons, general surgeons, traumatologists, and maxillofacial surgeons.
Ukraine's chief diplomat, Andriy Sibiga, called the massive attack yet another proof that Russia does not feel enough pressure to stop the war. He made an appeal to all partners, companies, and international organizations. He asked them to mobilize support and prevent a humanitarian crisis. In particular, he noted that our country lacks generators, equipment for repairing damaged facilities, energy infrastructure, and additional air defense systems. The foreign minister also noted that Ukraine needs larger volumes of energy resources and funds. Andriy Sibiga stated that these are very urgent needs, and our country would be very grateful for any assistance. She spent the night on the bathroom floor. EU Ambassador Katarina Maternova showed how she experienced the shelling of Kyiv. The diplomat shared photos of the massive attack and her sleeping spot set up in the hotel bathroom where she spent the night. A night of horror in Ukraine. It was terrifying. An incredibly loud night, Maternova captioned her post on Facebook. The official shared her thoughts on the war in Ukraine, which has exhausted everyone, but at the same time she noted the resilience and courage of Ukrainians. In conclusion, she added that the European Union remains a reliable ally, does not turn away, but on the contrary, is looking for ways to help our country persevere and bring about a peace that will be just and lasting. The TSM broadcast continues. We remind you that we are waiting for your comments, as well as your subscription, likes, and the notification bell, so you don't miss the most important and interesting updates. Well, I'll continue. In the temporarily occupied territory of Ukraine, special forces from the SBU Special Operations Center destroyed 2 Russian light aircraft at an airfield, which they used to intercept our long-range drones. As noted by the security service, destroying such targets helps clear the skies for Ukrainian drones that strike enemy rear positions. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drones reached Trubchevsk in the Bryansk region. There, an electrical substation was attacked, according to Russian telegram channels. They also report a large fire at the Smolensk CHP plant. Ukrainian defense forces managed to regain positions near 2 settlements in the Dobropillia direction. However, at the same time, the enemy managed to fully occupy the village of Poltavka and advance near 4 more settlements in the Oleksandrivka sector of the front. More than 2 weeks ago, the Russians redeployed significant forces there from near Pokrovsk. This information comes from the analytical portal Deep State. The latest reports from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine recorded 60 combat clashes along the entire front line. The fiercest fighting is reported to be in the Pokrovsk and Oleksandrivka sectors. The enemy is also actively targeting Kostiantynivka. The Ukrainian unit Phoenix has released a video showing its fighters destroying a column of Russian equipment heading toward the city and toward our positions in order to deploy their sabotage and reconnaissance groups. As a result, 30 Russians were eliminated. Additionally, 3 vehicles, a quad bike, a tank, were destroyed. An MTLB and electronic warfare equipment. A 12-point peace proposal to end the war with Russia is being prepared by Ukraine and European countries. According to Bloomberg, the implementation of the plan will be overseen by a peace council headed by the President of the United States. Among the proposals are the return of all deported children to Ukraine and the exchange of prisoners. Ukraine will receive security guarantees, funding, and restoration of damages caused by the war, as well as a path to rapid accession to the European Union. At the same time, sanctions against Russia will be gradually lifted, although about $300 billion of frozen Russian reserves will only be returned when Moscow agrees to contribute to Ukraine's post-war reconstruction. In the event of a renewed attack, the restrictions will be reinstated, and Kyiv and Moscow will begin negotiations on the administration of the occupied territories. All these points could come into effect as soon as Russia, following Ukraine, agrees to a ceasefire, which has not happened yet. According to media reports, the details of the plan are still being finalized. And European officials may visit the United States this week to secure Washington's support for the plan. Well, while diplomacy is on pause, Putin has returned to his favorite pastime, saber rattling. The Kremlin leader held strategic nuclear forces exercises via video link. The drill was supposedly routine, but it's notable that it took place close to the United States. During the exercises, an intercontinental ballistic missile Yas was launched from the Plesets Cosmodrome towards the Kura range in Kamchatka. In addition, a Sineva-A ballistic missile was launched from the Barents Sea by the Bryansk nuclear submarine. The Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation is certain these tests were demonstrative. This is an information operation aimed at undermining the image of American President Donald Trump. And this is very reminiscent of the behavior of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, who previously carried out similar demonstrative launches. At the same time, the Center for Countering Disinformation believes that there is no real threat of Russia using nuclear weapons. The state budget for 2026 was adopted in the first reading. Lawmakers reviewed more than 3,000 amendments, which is a record number of changes to the budget. Parliament adopted only 50 amendments, which the government must take into account when preparing the draft budget for the second reading. All the money earned, both this year and next, will be directed towards security and defense. There are no funds for social expenditures. The deficit amounts to more than 2 trillion hryvnias. Therefore, Ukrainians will rely on international financial assistance, in particular the allocation of funds from frozen Russian assets. Deputies also advised the Cabinet of Ministers to raise salaries for military personnel, school and university teachers, and to leave more tax revenue in the regions. The updated state budget must be finally approved by November 20th. Detention for a period of 2 months. A preventive measure was chosen yesterday for Andriy Bilous, the scandalous director accused of harassment. He was escorted straight from the courtroom. Earlier, he was charged with rape, including of minors. In total, there are officially 5 victims in his case. Deputy Prosecutor General Maria Vdovichenko, who acted as the prosecutor in this case, explained that Bilous would choose girls among his students or young actresses, those who had no one to stand up for them, and he forced them into sex. If he heard a refusal, he would intimidate, deny roles, and humiliate. The scandal at the Young Theatre erupted back in the winter of this year. At first, there were anonymous accusations, and then open allegations of sexual violence emerged. The prosecutor's office says this is the first harassment case in Ukraine's history to be brought to court. For all 10 months, they collected evidence, conducted examinations, and so on. Bilous will remain in custody until December 17th.
The motion is granted. To apply a preventive measure, specifically in the form of detention, to the suspect Andriy Fedorovich Bilous in accordance with the law and established legal procedures.
Was this the decision you expected? Not at all, certainly.
Good afternoon. Keep working, you goats.
Thank you.
The presiding judge even said it was a pity that there were no media present when we were considering the defense's motion, a motion to the court requesting to summon an expert, because the expert did not take into account that the girls who were victims had studied acting.
And then the presiding judge really did say that it was a pity there were no media present, that the hearing was closed.
The jewelry that was brazenly stolen from the Louvre this Sunday has been valued at 88 million euros. The search for the thieves is still ongoing. It is preliminarily known that there were 4 of them. In just 7 minutes, they made off with several jewels belonging to Napoleon and Empress Eugenie. One of them has already been found near the scene of the crime. The other 8 are still being searched for. Paris prosecutor Laure Becquot expressed hope that the robbers would not decide to dismantle and melt down the jewels in order to sell them. After the high-profile robbery, the likes of which the French capital had not seen in the past 100 years, it emerged that there had already been reports of security issues within the Louvre itself. The museum director Laurence Descartes wanted to resign, but the Élysée Palace refused to accept her resignation. Instead, she will testify before the Senate. At the same time, the Louvre was reopened to tourists after the robbery. The largest Ukrainian flag in the world was unfurled in Australia. The Ukrainian community of Queensland shared some moving footage. The unfurling of the flag. This is the largest blue and yellow flag in the world, recognized by the Ukrainian Book of Records. It is 60 meters long, 40 meters wide, and weighs as much as 184 kilograms. Volunteers and high-ranking officials from the Australian Parliament took part in the event. Created in 2012, this flag has traveled across Ukraine. It was unfurled in Mariupol and Bakhmut. The flag has also visited other cities around the world, such as Krakow, Boston, Washington, and Sydney. Peter Bongiorni, president of the Australian community, speaking at the event, emphasized that the Ukrainian flag has flown high. In moments of triumph and liberation, it was carried by people who believe in a free and independent Ukraine. After all, for Ukrainians, the flag is not just a piece of cloth. It is a symbol of unity, resilience, and freedom. The TSN team is keeping track of all the latest updates. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next episodes and stay up to date with all the events. And be sure to comment on everything that interests you and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a great Thursday.